Welcome to our new tricky quiz. You'll hear some statements about the human body, and your task will be to decide if they're real. Keep track of your answers and be sure to share your score in the comments. Let's begin.
The human tongue consists of 8 intertwined muscles.
Myth or fact? Fact.
The whole structure resembles an elephant's trunk or an octopus tentacle. Just like them, the tongue's very flexible and can move in any directions.
People cannot live more than 100 years. Myth or fact? Thankfully, it's a myth.
People who live to be 110 years and older, also called supercentenarians, may have a secret. Researchers have discovered they have more immune cells called T helpers than the average person. These cells are likely to protect some people from some health problems.
The human brain is absolutely sterile. Myth or fact? Myth.
Scientists have always thought that the human brain is a sterile place, free of germs or bacteria. But the latest studies have shown that experts might have been wrong all along. It seems there are harmless microbes living in our brains, but researchers need a bit more time to make sure.
The human brain can easily control 6 fingers. Myth or fact? Fact.
Researchers believe that if people suddenly started to be born with 6 fingers, the brain would easily adapt to it. Those with polydactyly, extra fingers or toes, usually don't have any problems with this feature. Their brains know how to control additional fingers and how to use each of them independently. Such people sometimes need only one hand to carry out a task, for which others would need 2 hands. In some people, saliva accumulates in a gland under their tongue.
Myth or fact? Fact.
It can then get propelled out in a stream when a person presses on this gland. If the mouth is open at the moment, a jet can reach several feet. This process, called gleeking, can occur spontaneously. A person accidentally pushes their tongue against the gland while eating, yawning, talking, or cleaning their teeth, and voila! Up to 35% of people can gleek, but just 1% can do it on command.
About 1% of people have an interesting reaction to sunlight. Sneezing. Myth or fact? Myth. The number is way higher, 25% of people.
This phenomenon has its own name, the photic sneeze reflex. In the Greek language, it's called sun sneezing.
Humans can't regenerate cartilage. Myth or true? Myth.
Just like salamanders regrow their tails, humans might be able to regenerate cartilage. That's rubber-like stuff around your joints. Scientists have discovered that cartilage is likely to repair itself, most effectively at the ankle, not that well in the knee, and least effectively in the hip. The older you get, the fewer bones you have.
Myth or fact? Fact.
When people are born, they have many more than 206 bones. In babies, most bones look different than they do in grown-ups, and there are more than 300 of them. Where do those extra ones go? They sure do not disappear or dissolve. They fuse together as they develop. Until they merge, some bones contain neither collagen nor calcium, what we think is standard bone material. No, they start as flexible yet tough cartilage. Later, the cartilage turns into sturdier bones, and some of the pieces come together. For example, the skull initially consists of 44 different elements, but a grown-up skull is made up of 22 bones. Some bones don't fully form till our early to mid-20s.
Lies make your nose get hot. Myth or fact?
When someone's lying, their own nose gives them away. Psychologists from the University of Granada discovered that when a person told a lie, the temperature around their nose and the inner corners of the eyes went up. This phenomenon was called the Pinocchio effect.
Chimeras are not real. Myth or fact? Myth.
Ancient Greeks had stories about fire-breathing creatures called chimeras. They were a fearsome mixture of a goat, lion, and snake. In real life, chimeras are people who have two different sets of DNA. Scientists have recorded no more than 100 cases of human chimerism.
You can have albinism that affects only the eyes. Myth or fact? Fact.
Albinism is a rare feature to have. People with albinism have very little to no melanin, a substance that produces pigmentation. But if it's ocular albinism, that's even more unique. This kind of albinism affects only a person's eyes. Experts don't have exact numbers, but they think between 1 person in 20,000 to 1 person in 50,000 have ocular albinism.
Your brain is constantly processing tons of visual information, around 6 million bits per minute. Myth or fact? Myth. In fact, much more. Around 600 million bits per minute.
It all starts when the light goes through the cornea, your eye's clear, protective outer layer. After several transformations, the light turns into electrical signals. They travel to your brain, and it interprets them into images you see. It takes milliseconds for this super complicated process to happen. The human brain is 73% water.
Myth or fact? Fact.
That's why if your brain loses even 2% of liquid, you start feeling exhausted. This also makes your memory worse, shortens your attention span, and puts a dampener on your mood.
Arch-shaped fingerprints are the most common. Myth or fact? Myth.
Around 65% of the world's population have loop-shaped fingerprints. In 30% of people, fingerprints are whorl-shaped, and only 5% of people have arch-shaped fingerprints. All these types are divided into smaller groups. For example, there might be plain or tented arches, accidental whorls, or the peacock's eye, and so on.
Most human curls are arranged counterclockwise. Myth or fact? Myth.
If you have a circular hair whorl on your head, it's likely to be clockwise. Some scientists think there is a genetic link between hair whorl direction and handedness. A bit more than 8% of right-handed people have counterclockwise hair whorls, but in the left-handed, this number grows up to 45%. There are more than 650 skeletal muscles in your body.
Myth or fact? Fact.
They make up around 40% of your body weight.
Muscle contraction produces most of the heat in the human body. Do you think it's a myth or truth? Truth.
Up to 85% of the heat your body produces comes from your muscles contracting. At the same time, caterpillars have many more muscles than people. Some species, up to 4,000 of them. And the grasshopper has 900.
Your brain can't decide what sounds to focus on when you're in a loud place. Myth or fact? Myth. It can.
Thanks to this ability, you can shut out all other voices and concentrate on the person you're listening to.
People can stay underwater for up to 13 minutes. Myth or fact? Fact.
The badger is a group of nomadic people that live in the waters around the Philippines, Indonesia and Malaysia. Thanks to a rare DNA mutation, they can stay underwater for up to 13 minutes. The badger people have evolved spleens that are way larger than average. This feature provides them with a genetic advantage. Sea nomads needed to hunt for fish or look for underwater stuff that can be used in crafts. Human bones might be loaded with a network of tiny tunnels.
Myth or fact? Fact.
Scientists knew nothing about them until recently. That's why it was unclear how blood cells, which are produced in our bones, could quickly exit bones and get into the blood circulation. But now the mystery may be finally solved. If there are holes, there can also be capillaries, miniature blood vessels.
You can't have more than one row of eyelashes. Myth or fact? Myth.
Some people have more than one row of eyelashes. This phenomenon is a genetic mutation called distichiasis. A person with this condition has a second set of eyelashes growing behind the first. All these thick, lush lashes sure look beautiful, but they can also cause some discomfort. Some hairs can start growing in the wrong direction, or in the place where an oil gland is supposed to be. It can cause irritation and tearing.
London cab drivers have bigger hippocampus for better navigation. Myth or fact? Fact.
The hippocampus is a part of your brain that helps you navigate in space. You have two of them, each the size of a chestnut. London cab drivers have bigger hippocampi than most other people. Researchers are sure it's thanks to their regular mental workout. It's not a gimme to navigate 60,000 London streets.
Almost all of our body is covered with hairs.
Myth or fact? Fact.
They grow even in the belly button. Their purpose is to catch lint. Check it out, see? A single human hair can support 3.5 ounces of weight. That's how much 2 candy bars weigh.
If you never cut your hair, it would keep growing forever. Myth or fact? Myth.
Yeah, your hair can stop growing at a certain length. A hair usually grows from 2 to 7, so usually it doesn't exceed 42 inches.
The rarest hair color is red. Myth or fact? Fact.
There's not more than 2% of people with natural red hair. They're followed by blondes and by all the varieties of brown shades. The vast majority goes to black hair, including very dark brown.
All parts of the human body get nutrients from blood. Myth or fact? Myth.
The only part of the human body that doesn't get any nutrients from blood is the cornea of the eye. Instead, it's fed by tears and fluid in front of your eyes. A human eye has some resemblances to a car engine. They both need various liquids to perform properly. An engine needs gasoline and an eye needs tears. In order to work well, the tears should be thoroughly distributed all over the eye. That's why we blink up to 20,000 times a day. So, a lid is a bit of a windshield washer.
Tongue has the fastest muscles in our body. Myth or fact? Myth.
We've got 2 really fast muscles. They control the eyelid closing. They're the fastest muscles in our body. Eyes are fragile and need protection. That's why when the reflex is triggered, these muscles shut the eyes within about 100 milliseconds. No more than 0.1 seconds.
People recognize only purple, blue, green, yellow, and yellow-red colors. Myth or fact? Fact.
Everything else is a combination of these 3. It's impossible to calculate how many of these combinations the human eye sees because every single person has slight vision differences. But it's about 1/1,000,000th combinations on average, you see?
People perceive colors the same way. Myth or fact? Myth.
The inability to distinguish colors, also known as color blindness, affects around 8% of males and 0.5% of females. But colors themselves aren't as stable and objective as they might seem. Multiple tests have shown that people experience colors differently, depending on many factors such as geographical location, language, and gender, to name a few. It means that you can enjoy the same sunset with your friend and see completely different colors without even knowing it. Just like fingerprints, your eye color is unique.
Myth or fact? Fact.
It can even affect the way you perceive light and make your vision one of a kind. To understand how this is possible, you gotta figure out how the eye color is formed. This is the iris, the colored part of the eyeball. The iris contains pigmentation, and its content determines what eye color you have. Every human has a slightly different amount of pigmentation. That's why you won't find two people with identical eye colors.
There are people with pure black eyes. Myth or fact? Myth.
Some rare people have beautiful, deep black eyes, but this is only an optical illusion caused by the abundance of melanin. Pure black iris doesn't exist in nature. Although these eyes look very dark, they're actually dark brown.
Melanin acts like natural sunglasses. Myth or fact? Fact.
Studies have proved that eye pigmentation impacts your vision. No matter how dark or light your eye color is, people with lighter eye colors are more sensitive to light, which may cause them to feel uncomfortable on sunny days. If you have a light eye color and have to squint when you go outside, don't forget to put on sunglasses. Your irises contain less pigment that serves as protection from the sun's rays. But since melanin acts like natural sunglasses, you have better night vision compared to dark-eyed people. Your peripheral vision is almost completely black and white.
Myth or fact? Fact.
It's because you have more color-detecting cones in the center of your retina than at the sides. Women can distinguish more colors than men because they have 2 X chromosomes, and men only have 1. Even if something is wrong with one of the chromosomes, a woman can still see colors correctly. That's why women are rarely colorblind.
Red eyes on photos have nothing to do with blood vessels. Myth or fact? Myth.
When the camera flash goes off, your eyes aren't prepared for such an influx of light. Your pupils remain dilated, which is why the light gets reflected off the red blood cells of the choroid. This is a layer of tissue at the back of your eye that nourishes your retina. You spend 10% of the time when you're awake with your eyes closed.
Myth or fact? Fact.
It's all those times you're blinking.
Myth or fact? Myth.
About 6% of people can vibrate and rapidly shake their eyeballs back and forth. It doesn't mean something's not right with their eyes. It's just a unique trick they can perform.
Your eyelashes can sense insects flying towards you. Myth or fact? Fact.
The main purpose of eyelashes is to shield your eyes and protect them from sand, moisture, dust, and debris in the air. Your eyelashes sense when something comes up too close to your eyes, like an insect flying towards you, and trigger your blink reflex. Blinking also helps when you need to flush out some tiny particles or debris stuck in your puncta. Those are small openings you have in your eyelids. That's where the tears get pumped out.
The nose helps you enjoy your food. Myth or fact? Fact.
The nose is probably one of the most underappreciated parts of the body. We wouldn't even be able to enjoy eating without it. About 80% of the taste of any food is thanks to the nose and its ability to recognize odors. If you hold your nose while eating, you will taste almost nothing. With no sense of smell, you're likely to recognize food mostly by texture, so an onion might seem no different than a big, refreshing apple.
People can distinguish 10,000 smells. Myth or fact? Myth.
Scientists used to believe we could distinguish about 10,000 smells, but they were wrong. Recent research showed that people are actually able to distinguish between more than 1 trillion smells. We also remember them better than anything else, and smells can even evoke some distant memories.
Humans mostly breathe through one nostril at a time. Myth or fact? Fact.
When you breathe, one nostril does most of the work, and they switch every couple of hours.
Most people can move their ears. Myth or fact? Myth.
18% of people can move both ears at the same time, while 22% can move one ear at a time. People who can do it use weak vestigial muscles we got from our ancestor humans, who had this trait in common with cats.
Myth or fact? Sad to say, but to date it's considered a fact.
Humans are capable of using echolocation like bats and dolphins.
Myth or fact? Fact.
With some training, you can find your way in complete darkness, analyzing the surroundings by sounds bouncing off objects. Don't need to practice that.
Well now, how many questions did you crack? Can you call yourself an expert? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe because new amazing quizzes are coming.